Okay, another video here. This time I'm gonna calm myself down because I had a lot of energy in my other videos recently. The other videos talking about my dog. So now, this time I'm talking about my experience when I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. My experience, I talked about it in my older videos, older videos, earlier last summer, I believe. Yeah, last summer. But now I'm gonna dedicate it specifically to this video here. So here it goes. Now me, I was born into the Jehovah's Witness religion. I was born into that religion. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness ever since she was 19. So she brought the whole family into it. And the thing is with her, she always said that as long as people live in her house, they must go to the Kingdom Hall. In particular, her kids and her relatives, as far as her nieces and nephews, at least too. So she also got my cousins into it also. So she had lots of Bible studies with them. I think probably with all of them too, at least at one time. And then with all of us, all of my sisters, I have 3 sisters, and I am the only boy, the third of the bunch, and literally the most mature of the bunch too. Like literally, and including more mature than my mother, because as the past few years I've realized how immature my mother is. So that's why I just leave her alone. And I'll go into that another time. But my mother is extremely childish over small little stuff. So, going through my life as a Jehovah's Witness back then, ex-Jehovah's Witness now, but back then it was something that I just moved into, and it was just normal to me because that's all I knew at that time. And that's how religion is with a lot of people who were brought into it from birth. It was just normal. But it was like as I got older, things just felt kind of weird to me. And I had the Bible studies with my mother and a whole bunch of other brothers. And then you had the going to field service. And field service was actually kind of fun when I was younger, all the way up to my teenage years, because it, number one, gave me something to do. Number two, I was able to be sociable with other people and meet new people, both when we knock on their doors and also new brothers and sisters that was in the congregation that I haven't met before or just didn't spend much time with. So that was fun, and especially when it was lunchtime. When it was lunchtime, and then we went on to lunch, whether it be McDonald's, Burger King, Friendlies, or whatever. That was another exciting experience too. Then you got more social time, So I enjoyed that. And then it got to a point where I was in my teenage years. Teenage years, that's when it started to like really didn't make sense, and I would start to not want to go to the Kingdom Hall. So what me and my sisters would always do, we would always figure out ways to how to make it look like we were sick so that we wouldn't have to go. Sometimes it would work, but the more we did it, the more my mother caught on. I was like, okay, they faking it, so we still going. Sometimes it would work, and sometimes when we would just stay asleep on like Wednesday nights, when we come from school, we would eat, watch TV, and then take a nap. And then we'll stay taking a nap, and then we would leave it up to our mother to come and get us and wake us up. And sometimes she wouldn't wake us up; she'll just go on her own. We would love that to stay. So then it was like as I got older, I didn't want to go. And then when I got into my teenage years, all the way to my 20s, I would want to go sometimes just to get out, and it would feel good to get out. And then there were days where I didn't want to go. So it was like really off and on. But the older I got, the more I didn't really want to go. But what really got me was they had this thing called unbaptized publisher. And then they had becoming a brother, and then they had elders. They had like different categories. And the higher you go up, the more responsibility you have. So what I was doing about 19 years old, I think, or my early 20s, somewhere in there, I was seeking to become an unbaptized publisher, where once you become an unbaptized publisher, you had like a little bit more responsibility and a little bit more things to do. You expand. So in order to be that, oh no, I wanted to get baptized. That's what it was. I already was an unbaptized publisher, but I was seeking to get baptized. Because once you get baptized, then you become a brother. You be known as a brother, and you can carry around the mics. You can have more responsibility. Yeah, that's what it was. I was seeking to become baptized. And once you become an unbaptized publisher, when you go out in what you call field service is when you knock on the door. Yeah, that's what you call field service. That's what they call field service. You have to record your time, how much time you spent throughout the week, and then they have like some kind of little schedule thing that you fill out, and then you report your time in. And in order to become baptized, you have to have a certain consistent amount of hours. And if you don't have that consistent amount of hours, the next time that you be, yeah, all the way up to the next time where you're able to get baptized, then you won't be able to get baptized. And guess what? I got most of my hours consistently all the way up, and then I handed my time in, and then the brother contacted me, and he said, guess what? You were short this month by 1 hour. So unfortunately, you won't be able to get baptized. I said to myself, what the I didn't say it like that, but I was like, oh man. All of that got darn work, and I was off 1 hour, and this mother effer said that I can't get baptized because of 1 goddamn hour. I was like, are you serious? Are you motherfucking serious? I'm like, really? So, and he was like, okay, you're gonna have to just work harder and you can do it. So at that time, I was disappointed. But I was like, okay, I'll just do it, and I'll just keep working. But then maybe a few weeks or a few months later, it hit me, and I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Am I seriously putting all this time and doing this thing all over again and having to prove myself to these people to get so-called baptized? And it just didn't feel right. It just didn't click to me at all. So I'm saying to myself, I don't know if I even want to do this again. So I allowed myself to just relax and to feel things out and let things just be. And eventually got to a point I said, this just doesn't make sense. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it at all. And I threw getting baptized out of the window. It didn't make sense for me to put in all of that work, because to be off for 1 hour, you would think, okay, if these are so-called godly people, that they would somehow figure out, okay, he is seriously putting in the work, and he's serious about getting baptized, and he's doing what he has to do, and he's just off of 1 hour. Okay, we can let that slide. We'll let that slide. We can look at his good intentions. He has good intentions. We'll let that slide. We'll let him go and get baptized. If they would have did that, then all would be well, and I don't know where I would be till this day. But it was that moment, major moment that broke the ice, that really got me. And then ever since then, stuff just didn't make sense. And then I was just putting two and two together. I'm like, And then every time I would step into the Kingdom Hall, now that I know what it was my intuition, but I just didn't feel right. Every time I step into that Kingdom Hall, I'm like, oh. And then when the brothers would start talking, I would fall asleep, get up. Sometimes the stuff that they would say would be interesting, but most of the time when they had the speeches, the talks, I would just fall asleep. And then you had this watchtower thing, and my mother would make sure that we do it every single week, study it. We have a study with her before, like a few days before we go to the meeting, and then that was boring in itself. Sometimes it was fun because of some interesting topics and we would actually learn, but other times it was like, okay, I'll do it because I have to do it. And then going through all of that mess, and some of the stuff just didn't make sense, especially the death part didn't make sense. The end of the world part didn't make sense, because I knew that intuitively. I had a being moment, what I call a being moment, intuitively, I knew that the end of the world wasn't going to happen, because it was too much that was built till this day for this whole world to just explode, or chaos, or whatever they preach now. So I said, that just doesn't make sense. I know that that's not going to happen. So I didn't believe that. I dropped that belief, because that was a belief that I had that was brought on to me. But I dropped that belief one time when I was in my other apartment. So that was gone. And then it got to a point where as soon as I got my own house, my own apartment, I just stopped going. And that's it. And once I stopped going, it felt so good, and it felt like stuff was just released off of me. I'm like, oh, I'm free now. And then as I went on, like the years passed, more and more of those beliefs, I just dropped them. And I was like, just releasing them off of me. I was like, I don't have to do that, I don't have to do that. And then back then, before I would leave my apartment, I used to pray to the Jehovah, to the Jehovah, and then it was one time, I got to a point, I was getting ready to go out. I was like, wait a minute. I don't believe in this Jehovah anymore at all. So I was like, you know what? Now that I understand a lot more in spirituality, and that I have helpers who's here to protect me, and that I have to be on a certain frequency for certain things to happen, I was like, you know what, man? Forget praying to this Jehovah. Just leave this dude alone, which he's a being that got people to worship him, and he's not this so-called God that is really doing things for other people, but he's getting people to worship him. And if I get this correctly, he's like from Jupiter, from Jupiter, some being from Jupiter that got people to worship him. So he's not the Jehovah that people think they're worshiping at all. It's a totally different thing. But I haven't done too much like into it, because I really don't care about that being. But it is a being that's deceiving people, and I'll probably go into more research, and I'll do some meditation and get information about what that being is. But I let that thing go. I let it go, and I'm done with it, because now I understand spirituality. I'm understanding even more who I am, and I'm experiencing my abilities. I'm understanding a lot more things. I know where I'm from, what star constellation I came from, and it's amazing. And now my life is a lot more easier. I can do more things. I know how to get what I want. It feels better. For the people out there, for the young people out there especially, but for the people out there who's still in the religion and they still aren't too sure what to do, and things are feeling kind of weird to them regarding their religion, I'm telling you, there is life after religion. Because a lot of people, what the religion would do is they get you into a little box, a box of beliefs, and they get you to believe like, okay, there's nothing outside of this box, and you have to stay in this box in order to have a successful life. However, once you get out of it and you follow your intuition, and you become to understand how things really are, and you understand the spiritual world, life is so much more easier. And life is what you make it. What you make it is not as bad afterward, after you leave the religion. And as you can see me, and you look at all of the videos, I'm in good shape. I know what I'm talking about, or at least most of the time. And I'm intuitive. My intuition has expanded, developed highly, and it's better. Life is better for me after that religion. So I'm gonna cut it off here before my battery cuts out, because lately it's been cutting out. It's been cutting out. That's why I got to get a new battery. And that's my experience as a Jehovah's Witness. And I might go into another video, I don't know, depending on what information I need to do when I get out, if anything new comes out. But that's my experience. You can go ahead, comment if you have similar experience, or even talk to me about your experience. Go right ahead. Alright, till next time, see ya.